Botafogo has become one of the biggest clubs in Brazil in these past few years, especially after this season, where they achieved the remarkable task of winning the double, meaning they won the Brazilian League this year for only their third time in history, and they won their first ever CONMEBOL Libertadores, which is basically the South American Champions League in this campaign too. However, just 4 years ago, Botafogo was playing in the second division in Brazil. They were in a 1 billion Brazil real debt, which is around $164 million to provide some more context, and literally just last year, they had one of their worst choke jobs in Brazilian league history when they bottled the title. So how did Botafogo overcome these awful events and win almost everything they could in South America in just a 4-year time span? Well, let's take a look at how Botafogo went from relegation to South American champions in just 4 years. Now, this modern Botafogo journey started back in 2020 during the 2020 Brasileiro Serie A season. Botafogo had been a constant in the top division of Brazil for around 17 years now. So although they were facing a ton of debt financially, there weren't any particular concerns regarding relegation this season. Additionally, Botafogo were going through a series of internal audits to turn their club into a for-profit corporate entity, which meant that the club could be portioned and sold to investors, which is the first time this was allowed for Brazilian clubs, as this would be a solution to the financial crisis multiple Brazilian clubs faced. But the 2020 season put a delay to these plans, and that's because Botafogo performed extremely poorly. Not only did they get relegated to the second division of Brazil, the Brasileiro Serie B, but they finished dead last in the league, having the least amount of wins compared to any team, tied with the most amount of losses with 19th place Coritiba, and having the worst goal difference in the league with -30. After getting relegated in the 2020 season, which technically ended in February 2021, Botafogo's debt reached 1 billion real. And to make matters even worse, the next campaign in the Serie B started off average for Botafogo, with them only winning 3 games in their first 12 matches, drawing to teams like Vila Nova 1-1, Londrina 2-2, Avaí 1-1, Cruzeiro 3-3, while losing to teams like Náutico 3-1, Sampaio Correa 2-0, CRB 2-1, Brusque 2-1, and Goiás 2-0. With results like this, Botafogo were floating around 10th to 14th position in the standings for multiple game weeks in a row, and it seemed like all hope for an instant promotion were gone. But after hiring Anderson Moreira after these terrible stretch of results, things started to turn around for Botafogo, and after only losing 3 games in their next 25, winning 16 of them, Botafogo managed to take that first place spot on the table with only 5 game weeks left. And with that, Botafogo actually won the Brasileiro Serie B title for only the second time in their history with 70 points and received a promotion back to the Serie A in immediate fashion. Throughout this time, there were a lot of changes happening to Botafogo administratively, meaning internally, Botafogo were restructuring. For example, they hired executive Jorge Braga to become the brand new CEO of the club, and they also entered into a partnership with the investment firm XP Inc. to seek out potential buyers to invest in their club. This is all because around this time, the Brazilian Congress recently passed the SAF law. No, not Sir Alex Ferguson, but the Sociedade Anônima de Futebol law, which just allows foreigners to purchase shares in Brazilian football clubs, the first time that this was allowed in history. And with Botafogo's immediate promotion back to Brasileiro Serie A, Botafogo finalized its SAF legal structure, which meant that investments could come into the club, which they did, because in January 2022, American investor John Textor, who also owns a majority stake in Premier League club Crystal Palace, Olympique Lyon in France, and also RWD Molenbeek in Belgium, was in talks to purchase a majority share of Botafogo. And 1 month later in February, John Textor's holding company Ego Football Holdings was successful in acquiring 90% of Botafogo shares, and this would be the start of a new era for the Rio de Janeiro based club. But there were still some heavy obstacles that the club had to overcome before they saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Right away, John Textor made his presence known at the club, and he dismissed old manager Anderson Moreira, who brought Botafogo back to Brasileiro Serie A, for Portuguese manager Luis Castro right before the 2022 season, in which Botafogo finished 11th place and guaranteed themselves a spot in the 2023 Copa Sudamericana, basically the Europa League of South America. Then, before the 2023 Brasileiro Serie A commenced, John Textor and the Botafogo hierarchy went crazy in the transfer market, signing top players like Diego Costa on a free transfer, who came later during the season, young electric Brazilian winger Luis Henrique from Real Betis for 16 million euros, Gregor from Inter Miami for 2.5 million euros, Jefferson Savarino from Real Salt Lake for 2.45 million euros, Lucas Alter from an imposing Brazilian club for 1.8 million euros, same with signing left back Coibano from Grêmio, signing Jefinho on loan from Olympique Lyon, etc. With these signings, it was thought that Botafogo could compete for a spot in the top 6. But instead, in the first half of the Brasileiro Serie A campaign, Botafogo would shock the world. In the first 19 games of the season, Botafogo would win 15 of those matches, including being the likes of Sao Paulo 2-1, Flamengo 3-2 away from home technically, Corinthians 3-0, 1-0 against Fluminense, who later on went to win the Copa Libertadores that same season by the way, Palmeiras away from home 1-0, Grêmio away from home 2-0, Internacional 3-1, etc. While only dropping points to 4 teams, losing to Goiás on matchday 6-1, losing to Atlético Paranaense 1-0 on matchday 9, drawing to Santos, my idol Neymar's old club 2-2 on matchday 16, and drawing to Cruzeiro 0-0 on matchday 18. With results like these, Botafogo had a stranglehold on the league, with them actually having a 13-point lead in first place on the table, and they held down that spot from matchday 3 all the way to matchday 30. Safe to say, things were looking good for Botafogo to win the Brasileiro Serie A title. But this is when the cracks started opening up for Botafogo. Pause. But in the middle of the season, the coach Luis Castro accepted an offer from Al Nassr, in which Cristiano Ronaldo apparently played a huge part in convincing him to come, leaving his position at Botafogo, which then paved the way for the arrival of Portuguese manager Bruno Lage. And let's just say, things did not go well for Botafogo after hiring him.
It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
After his takeover, Botafogo started dropping points more commonly, drawing to Sao Paulo 0-0, losing to Flamengo at home 2-1, losing to Atlético Mineiro 1-0, losing to an underperforming Corinthians team at the time 1-0, and drawing to potential relegation candidates Goiás 1-1 at home, which caused the Botafogo fans to start chanting dumbass in Portuguese at him after the game.
Awesome.
Anyways, after these poor string of results, which included 7 draws and 4 losses in 16 games, Bruno Lage was dismissed from his managerial position after 3 months. And for the remainder of the season, Botafogo's SCF leadership decided to promote 2 members within the club to coach the senior team. The former coach of Botafogo's under-23 team, Lucio Flavio, who now became the interim manager, with the players actually asking him to be in charge, while the assistant would be Joel Garley, a former Botafogo center back. But in hindsight, maybe promoting 2 people who have little to no experience, managing on the senior level in the midst of a title race, was probably not the smartest idea, and this decision from the higher-ups would sign Botafogo's death letter for the 2023 season. Initially though, it didn't seem like that, with Botafogo actually beating Fluminense 2-0 away from home and beating America Mineiro in the next match 2-1 away from home to potentially get their title charge back on track. But the next few games for this Rio de Janeiro based club were a nightmare. In the next match against a pretty strong Atlético Paranaense side at the time, Botafogo drew 1-1, and then in the following match they lost at home to a mid-table side Cuiabá. But in the following game at home against Palmeiras, if Botafogo got a win here, they could potentially shoo away another title challenger. And it seemed like it was going to end well for Botafogo, with the side actually having a 3-0 advantage in the first half, thanks to goals from Carlos Eduardo in the 21st minute, Cheche in the 30th minute, and Junior Santos in the 36th minute. But in the second half, Palmeiras leaned forward and started to take the game more seriously, and Brazilian wonder kid Endrick brought the game back almost right away in the 49th minute, with him dribbling past the entire Botafogo side it felt like to score a goal to bring one back. Things will remain calm for Botafogo up until the 76th minute, when one of their defenders, Adrielson, made a reckless challenge and got a red card, putting Botafogo down at 10 men. However, minutes later, fan favorite Tiquinho Suarez gets taken down in the box, and Botafogo had the opportunity to put the game to bed. Instead, Tiquinho's penalty gets saved in miraculous fashion, and minutes later in the 84th minute, the wonder kid Endrick strikes again and scores to bring another goal back for Palmeiras. Then in the 89th minute, Botafogo's defense collapses, and Jose Manuel Lopez gets a free header to score and bring the game back level 3-3. But it still doesn't end here, because in the 90+9th minute, Murilo Cerqueira is somehow free in the back of Botafogo's defense and scores to complete a 3-0 down comeback to a 4-3 victory for Palmeiras. Somehow the league leaders fumbled a 3-goal lead to lose the match to one of their title challengers.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
This game right here pretty much highlighted why Botafogo were about to fumble one of the greatest point leads in football history. I mean, even the owner, John Textor, had a meltdown on national TV after this match.
It's not a red card, he changed the game. This is corruption, this is a theft.
And no, speaking about fumbling, Botafogo did just that. In the next game against Vasco da Gama, Botafogo lost 1-0. And then the following game against Grêmio at home, well, home in quotes, because Botafogo actually had to play this match at Vasco da Gama Stadium because on the day of the match, Mexican Latin pop band RBD was performing at Botafogo Stadium, the Norte Santos. So obviously they couldn't play there.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Thank you Brazilian Fury, by the way, for pointing that out. Great channel who covers Brazilian football. Anyways, back to the game. Despite Botafogo initially winning the match 3-1, thanks to goals from Diego Costa in the 6th minute, Junior Santos in the 29th minute, and Marlos Freitas in the 46th minute, Botafogo still somehow lost 4-3, with Luis Suarez scoring a hat-trick in 19 minutes to complete the comeback for Brazilian giants Grêmio. What makes this even more heartbreaking for Botafogo, though, is that Luis Suarez doesn't play on pitches that aren't natural grass, since he's got some pretty bad knees, which meant that if Botafogo just got to play at their own stadium, which doesn't have natural grass, Suarez would not have played, and they probably wouldn't have conceded a hat-trick to him. Instead, since they had to play at Vasco da Gama Stadium, which by the way has natural grass on their pitch, Suarez clapped them. All because of a concert, bruh. That is nasty, nasty work. Anyways, after that, Botafogo would draw 5 consecutive times, including conceding a 96-minute equalizer against Red Bull Bragantino, conceding a 90th minute equalizer against a struggling Santos side, and despite thinking they scored a 97th minute winner against Coritiba from the penalty spot, they conceded in the 99th minute, which was the last attack of the game, to draw the match 1-1. Then to top it all off, in the very last game of the season, the initial title challengers lost 3-1 to Internacional, meaning they lost the Brazilian title by going winless in their last 11 games, losing 5 of those, and due to this, they conceded the title to Palmeiras, who won the Brasileiro Serie A twice in a row now. And instead, Botafogo dropped to 5th place in the league standings, losing an automatic qualification spot for the Copa Libertadores. Additionally, they lost in the round 16 in the Copa do Brasil, which is the cup, and they had a quarterfinal exit in the Copa Sudamericana, the Europa League of South America, as I mentioned previously. But they didn't just lose. Bruno Lage, when he was in charge, played a B team against Defensa y Justicia, an Argentinian club, and that's how they lost a competition that they never won before. And if Botafogo won this competition, by the way, they would have had an automatic ticket to the Copa Libertadores, something that they didn't have anymore because they finished 5th place. So as you can imagine, this was one of the most disappointing and painful seasons in Botafogo's history, and nobody at the time knew whether Botafogo could actually bounce back from this. But Botafogo did just that. But real quick though, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall, just to get to know me more. And also, make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow on my socials. Thank you. Right before the 2024 Brasileiro Serie A campaign, John Textor and the rest of his board made sure that there were a lot of changes with the Brazilian club. For starters, they hired new Portuguese manager Arthur Jorge like 10 days before the season started. And they also sold a lot of their former players, like Cake to Spartak in the Serbian league, Vinicius Lopez to Portugal, Jacob Montes, Lucas Mezenga, Jefferson, Matias Segovia, Diego Hernandez, Luis Segovia, etc. In total, for Botafogo, to my knowledge, they let go of 22 players total. But they didn't just sell players without replacing them, because they brought in some major replacements. First and foremost, they brought in Thiago Almada, the Argentinian from Atlanta United, for around 19.5 million euros. And fun fact, John Textor only found Almada out through Twitter after somebody tweeted at him to sign him. That's crazy. Then Botafogo also signed Mateus Martins from Udinese for 10 million euros, Vitinho from Burnley for 8 million euros, Alex Telles from Al Nassr on a free, Alan on a free as well, Igor Jesus from Shabab Al Ali, and he turned out to be one of Botafogo's most important players this upcoming season and has now gotten opportunities with the Brazilian national team. Adrielson is back on loan from Lyon, Carlos Alberto, Gustavo Sauer, etc. So Botafogo boosted their squad back up for the new season, and this would pay off in hindsight. Now, before the actual Brazilian league started, Botafogo had to play in the 2024 Copa Libertadores qualifiers to get into the tournament, and since they got 5th place the previous year, like I said, they failed to clinch that automatic spot. Luckily for them, their first opponents were Aurora from Bolivia, and although they drew the first match 1-1, they destroyed them in the second leg 6-0 to progress to the final qualifying round against fellow Brazilian club Red Bull Bragantino. And this was going to be a tough challenge for Botafogo, but thanks to Junior Santos, who scored a brace in the first leg at home to win 2-1 for his side against Bragantino, the 1-1 draw away from home in the second leg didn't matter much, and Botafogo qualified for the CONMEBOL Libertadores. Now, the actual Libertadores competition started alongside the Brazilian league, so what we're going to do is talk about the Libertadores group stages first, then the Brazilian league, then back to the Libertadores where the knockout stages start, and then back to the league once again. Just stick with me, alright? For the group stages, Botafogo was drawn into a group with Colombian club Junior, Ecuadorian club LDU Quito, and Peruvian club Universitario. And the first 2 games of the group stages went the opposite way for what Botafogo expected. At home against the Colombian club Junior, they somehow lost 3-1, and at one point they were 3-0 down this game. And then away to Ecuadorian club LDU Quito, they lost 1-0 due to an early goal. So 2 games into Botafogo's Libertadores campaign, and they've got 0 points. Luckily for them though, the players locked in, and they won 3 straight games after that, beating Universitario 3-1, beating LDU Quito at home 2-1, and then beating Universitario again 1-0 away from home. However, they did draw the last match of the group stages away to Junior 0-0, which meant that they would finish second place in Group D of the Copa Libertadores, despite having the same amount of points as first place Junior, and that's because of their goal difference, which also meant that Botafogo were set to play a more difficult team in the round 16, and it was actually a team that ruined their campaign last season, Palmeiras. But before that, let's talk about the 2024 Brasileiro Serie A campaign. By the end of the Libertadores group stages, Botafogo would play 6 matches in the league, and it wasn't really going too well for them. In fact, they lost 3-2 in their 2024 season opener against Cruzeiro, and despite winning 3 games in a row after that, they lost to Bahia at home 2-1 and drew to Fortaleza 1-1 after that, meaning after match day 6, Botafogo has only won 3 games so far, and they were 4th place in the league standings. In my opinion, I think Botafogo were struggling to balance both the CONMEBOL Libertadores and the Brazilian League at the same time. And this is because after the group stages ended in the Libertadores, there was a 3-month break in that competition before the knockout stage started. And during that time, Arthur Jorge's Botafogo side started cruising in the league. In fact, in the 16 games during this time span, Botafogo would win every match besides losing and drawing 3 times each, with those games being losing to Criciúma away from home 2-1, Cruzeiro at home 3-0, and losing to Juventude 3-2 away from home. No, not Juventus, this is a different team. While also drawing to Atlético Paranaense 1-1, Vasco da Gama away from home 1-1, and Sao Paulo away from home 1-1. Besides these games though, they won 10 matches, including beating the likes of Fluminense, the holding Libertadores champions 1-0, Grêmio away from home 2-1, Atlético Mineiro 3-0, Palmeiras 1-0, Internacional 1-0, etc. And with great results like this, Botafogo were the front runners again on winning the Brasileiro Serie A. However, this time, the fans and players knew not to get too excited before it was 100% confirmed. After all, that ball job from last season was still very haunting. But how are Botafogo performing so well after facing such a traumatic, heartbreaking experience? Well, it's thanks to the Portuguese manager Arthur Jorge's tactics. Let me explain. Botafogo now employ a transitional direct attacking style with their variation of a 4-2-2-2 formation that they start out with that transitions into a 4-2-3-1 formation as they attack. With this, they play many long balls instead of playing through the final third, and is also why they average 28 accurate long balls per match, the 4th highest in the Brazilian league. Not only that, Botafogo are also the top crossing team in the league with an average of 5.8 accurate deliveries per 90, and this causes chaos against low blocks, which increases consistent quality chance creation for Botafogo, becoming a key part to their attacking success. Hence why they generate the largest amount of big chances with 98. Not only that, compared to previous seasons, like Tiquinho for example, who carried the team last season with 17 goals, no player in Botafogo has above 8 goals, with the goals being from multiple players, like Luis Enrique, Igor Jesus, Jefferson Savarino, Thiago Almada, etc., and a huge amount of 28 players have a goal or an assist for Botafogo this season. Then with the defending, Botafogo drops into a 4-4-2 block when they're being attacked, just so they can prevent being breached from in behind, and with them having as many players as possible behind the ball is why they've conceded the 2nd fewest shots on target, the 3rd lowest XG in the league, and the fewest goals in the league, conceding only 0.8 goals per match. And also shout out to the 23-year-old goalkeeper John Victor, who has a 77% save percentage and is a key reason why Botafogo is keeping the ball out of the net. It gets more analytical than that, but that is a pretty detailed reason on why Botafogo is doing well in the league again. But before we get towards the end of the Brasileiro Serie A, let's switch back to the Copa Libertadores, where Botafogo had to play Palmeiras in the round 16. If y'all somehow don't recall, Palmeiras won the Brazilian League last season and snatched Botafogo's chain. Plus, they came back from 3-0 down to win 4-3, which swayed the tide towards their favor. So Botafogo wanted revenge in this Libertadores clash, and they got just that. In the first leg at home for Botafogo, they got the advantage they needed, with Luis Enrique starting it off with the goal in the 22nd minute to put his side up 1-0. And although Palmeiras brought one back thanks to Mauricio in the 33rd minute, Igor Jesus scored to bring the lead back to Botafogo, and this lead was held throughout the entire 90 for Botafogo to win the first leg 2-1. Then in the second leg, Botafogo would get a 2-0 lead away from home. They took goals from Igor Jesus in the 56th minute and Savarino in the 64th minute. And although Palmeiras seemed like they were going to have another comeback against Botafogo again, with Lopez scoring in the 86th minute and Ronnie scoring in the 90th minute, they needed one more goal to come back, and they failed to get that, which meant that Botafogo succeeded in the revenge and won the Libertadores round 16 clash against them 4-3 on aggregate. Then in the quarterfinals, Botafogo had to play another Brazilian club in Sao Paulo, a heated rival of Palmeiras actually. And regarding the matches, both legs actually ended up in a draw, the first leg being a 0-0 draw and the second leg being a 1-1 draw. Could have been 2-1 to Sao Paulo if Lucas Moura's goal wasn't called ineligible earlier on in the game though. Anyways, this quarterfinal clash was taken to a penalty shootout, and due to a miss from Sao Paulo's 6th penalty taker Nestor, Botafogo would win this quarterfinal clash and proceed on to the semifinals, where they would face the Uruguayan club Peñarol. And although Peñarol is a good South American club, don't get me wrong, I don't want that to be forgotten, they got absolutely cooked, cream pied, and destroyed by Botafogo in that first leg, with them winning 5-0 in that game. And although Botafogo suffered a somewhat shocking 3-1 loss in the second leg, they still won the overall tie 6-3 and would make the CONMEBOL Libertadores final, taking place in Buenos Aires, Argentina, against another Brazilian club, Atlético Mineiro. Brazilian clubs nowadays are dominating the CONMEBOL Libertadores, huh? But anyways, it's crazy that Botafogo went from the biggest ball job in potentially all of football history this past season to not qualifying directly for the Libertadores to now being in the final of the competition. Netflix, hurry up. Y'all might have to make a documentary on this. Anyways, to the Copa Libertadores final we go. Grab your popcorn, because man, this match was juicy. Literally 30 seconds into the match, we already had our first dramatic incident, and that was Gregor making one hell of a studs up high kick challenge to the head of an Atlético Mineiro player, and after that, Gregor was given a red card, meaning that for almost the entire 90 minutes of the Copa Libertadores final, Botafogo had to play with 10 men. The odds were stacked against the Rio de Janeiro based club, but they persevered, and were the dominant team in the first half in terms of having the chances. But then in the 35th minute, this attacking presence would pay off, with Luis Enrique getting on the end of a rebounded shot to score a goal for for Botafogo to get the lead in the final. What a couple of months Luis Enrique was having, huh? From scoring winners for his country Brazil in the World Cup qualifiers to scoring a very important goal in the final of the Libertadores. He might be him. Then literally 5 minutes later, Luis Enrique once again gets ahead of the goalkeeper in the box and gets tackled by him, which was then given as a penalty thanks to VAR. And the ex-Manchester United legend, just kidding, he ain't much of a legend for that club, Alex Telles steps up for the spot kick and scores to put 10-man Botafogo 2-0 up at halftime. Botafogo was in dreamland, and it seemed like the Libertadores trophy was all but theirs. But right when the second half was starting, Atletico Mineiro made a change and brought on the Chilean legend Eduardo Vargas. And literally just after 2 minutes, with his first touch, Vargas scored to bring the game back by 1 goal. That came out of nowhere for real. When I was watching this game, this was the furthest thing from what I was expecting to happen. From this moment on, Atletico Mineiro completely changed the tide of the match, and they were the ones dominating the opportunities and the chances created. If we literally look at the basic match stats, Atletico Mineiro had 22 total shots with a 4 on target and had 81% possession, bro. That's absurd, with them having 547 passes compared to Botafogo's 141, and completed 88% of them compared to Botafogo's 56. But Botafogo's low block defense was working because Atletico Mineiro failed to get through once again for the remainder of the game. Instead, one of Botafogo's best attacking threats this season, Junior Santos, who came off the bench because he was suffering an injury prior to the match, gets on the end of a defensive rebound and scored in the last minute of the game to seal the win for Botafogo and help them win their first ever Copa Libertadores trophy in their history. These guys went from barely even qualifying for the competition to winning the entire thing. This Botafogo journey has been insane, but Botafogo's successes wouldn't just end with them becoming champions of the entire South American continent. No, because we still got the remaining fixtures of the Serie A to talk about. And the crazy part is, unlike the beginning of this 2024 season, where they were struggling to balance playing in 2 competitions simultaneously, Botafogo somehow found a solution, because after the Libertadores knockout stages started, they literally went undefeated in the remaining games of the league. In the last 16 games of the season, Botafogo won 10 games and drew 6, and some of these wins include a 4-1 thrashing of Rio de Janeiro rivals Flamengo 4-1, a 2-1 win over Corinthians, who just made their big summer move of signing Memphis Depay, beating Fluminense away from home 1-0, and smashing Vasco da Gama, another local rival, 3-0. However, in the month of November, Botafogo would actually lose their long-term grasp on first place for a little bit, with them drawing 3 straight games to Coimbra, Atletico Mineiro, and Vitória, and this had them falling to second place on the table, below Palmeiras, who were trying to win 3 league titles in a row. But luckily for Botafogo, they had the opportunity to undo this slight choking, and that's because at the end of November, they had to play Palmeiras away from home, and basically whoever would win this game would win the Brazilian league. And in an unlikely turn of events, Palmeiras were the ones who bottled it this time. Obviously, it was nowhere near the Botafogo screw up from last season, but still, this was kind of a slight bottle. Despite playing away from home, Botafogo dominated the chances with 7 shots on target, and Gregor scored a goal in the 90th minute, Savarino scored one in the 73rd minute, and Andre Elsin scored another one in the 89th minute. And even though Richard Rios brought one back for Palmeiras in the 90+3rd minute, it wasn't enough, and Botafogo won away from home at Palmeiras 3-1 to secure that top spot again. Then 4 days after this game, they won the CONMEBOL Libertadores title, and in the 2 remaining league fixtures, Botafogo beat Internacional away from home 1-0 due to an early goal from Savarino, and then beat Palmeiras' rivals actually, Sao Paulo, who didn't want to help Palmeiras at all whatsoever, 2-1 thanks to a last minute goal from Gregor, who makes amends for that terrible challenge in the Libertadores final to seal the 3 points and seal the league title for Botafogo, who have now won their 3rd top division Brazilian league title in their history, the first one since 1995. And they did this by beating out Palmeiras to the title by 6 points, with Botafogo having a total of 79, and they only managed to lose 5 games, thanks to Arthur Jorge's brilliant transitional tactics. And just look at John Textor celebrating both of these trophies, man. The American has come in and saved the day. W America and W Pulisic, man. Don't really know where that came from, but I felt like I just had to show off my patriotism for a quick second. Oh, and Mr. Textor, if you ever want to show some love to your boy and slide me some tickets for a Botafogo match, hit me up. Had to shoot my shot, guys. You never know who's watching these days. But regardless, it's so insane to me that Botafogo literally went from the biggest fumble in football history to the very next season not only winning the league title that they fumbled, but also winning the Copa Libertadores, the equivalent of the Champions League in South America. This story is one for the history books, which is why I had to make a video about this. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I liked making it, and if you did, please remember to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Also, follow my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and join the Discord community. All the links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want a recap on the slight Man City downfall that's happening right now, you should definitely check out this video right here. You won't regret it.